Hello everybody, welcome back to Bible Corner Reviews. Today's video is a little bit different than some of the other ones that I've done, and it's really the product of a thought process I've been working through as I've recently, the beginning of this year, finished reading through the Legacy Standard Bible from Steadfast Bibles. And so I've been working on collecting my thoughts for a video review just of the translation in general, not the block, but the actual translation. And so this, hopefully not too long a video, is kind of a summary of one of my conclusions in that thought process, which you can probably deduce from the title of this video. But really how that came to be was, obviously when you're reading a version in English, I'm obviously looking at this from the English perspective and the English language. When you're reading a Bible and you get into the thinking behind which version do I want to read, obviously that can be different for many people. Sometimes it's based on what your church uses, so that way you can follow along what your family's always used, or just from your own research or what someone recommends. There's many different reasons why you might start using a particular translation. But if you think about it at all, or just delve into the why behind it, the question that's going to arise is, what is the best translation? Is there a best translation? And as I was pondering that, I had this thought, well, there are no good translations. And originally that was going to be the title of this video, but I decided that's a little bit too much clickbait because it's not really what I mean by that statement. What I do mean is that there's no one single good translation. There is a good, there's the best basically would be the original languages, which I think many would agree with. But in terms of English translations, many of the versions out there are the best. There's no one. They're all decent. And I'm referring here to all as in the mainline ones, none of the less popular, not as scholarly, but I have here several of the major ones. I have NASB, King James, New King James, ESV, and this is an HCSB, which is similar to ESV, but in the NLT, which is on the looser end, thought for thought. But you get the point, is that these major ones all really say the same thing, and when it comes down to which is the best, it's usually coming down to word choices and all that kind of stuff. And the main driving thought behind this for me was that in Bible translation, this case from Hebrew, let's say from Greek, this is a New Testament, so from Greek to English, there is necessarily a high level of interpretation. There's no such thing as translating one language directly across to another. Otherwise, there would be no differences in language. That's the reason we have different languages, is they have different grammar styles, different word order choices, and different words and meanings behind those words, different syntax. So really, you can never have a true word-for-word translation. And no discredit to those who have done the Legacy Standard Bible, which is that was really their point behind it, was trying to do word for word. But ultimately, it's really impossible to get that, because there is always a level of omission and addition to Bible translation, because there are just some things that you cannot say the same in another language. And so in terms of especially Greek, which is not at all similar to English in terms of word order or word choices, because you can have a much longer English sentence that describes a very short Greek sentence, just because of the differences in language. And so there's necessarily going to be times where you have to add words to clarify, which many Bible translations do help you identify by having italicized words, which is something the New American Standard and I believe the New King James and Legacy Standard do. There are some others. But ultimately, that is just to say that every translation has a translator bias. And that's why I said at the beginning, the only version of the Bible that you can use that is most accurate would be the original languages, because they have God's bias, as you might say, because they were directly inspired in many cases. But obviously we don't have those, and so everything we have down to today has been copied books. And so ultimately, every English translation has a unique twist, and I know that's going to turn a lot of people who are going to have opposing comments, especially with the King James on that one. But in reality, it's not a bad thing. Basically, my point behind this is that you don't have to be afraid that you're using the wrong translation to read the Bible. Yes, there are going to be nuances that are different between the two, and maybe one translation doesn't quite do justice to even the thought process behind the original language. But ultimately, you're not going to be led astray by reading a New King James or an ESV or a King James. You could have all, even in my church that I go to, we have everybody using those three different translations, and we all can agree on doctrinal matters, even in our different translations. So it's really just an encouraging thought, I think, and that's why I wanted to post this video as a separate one, because there's no one good best translation. There are many good translations, and I think that's really the point that I wanted to make with this video. So if you have comments, and I know there'll be several, make sure to comment and ask questions, and obviously I will respond to the ones that are actually legit and not just complaining about my opinions. So thanks for watching. I think all you guys are great, and see you again next time.